What will you do if your wife only give birth to girls? Well, sit tight while we listen to the beautiful story of Amina and his husband Sadiq. In the small village of Adara, nestled deep within the heart of Kwara State, lived a woman named Amina. Amina was kind, hardworking, and full of love. She was married to a man named Sadiq, a proud farmer known throughout the village for his strong hands and stern face. Together, they lived in a small mud brick house surrounded by fields of maize and cassava. Amina and Sadiq had been married for many years. With each year that passed, Amina prayed for a child, hoping to fill their home with the laughter of little ones. Finally, after much anticipation, Amina gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. She named her Zainab. The villagers came to celebrate, bringing gifts of yams, palm oil, and brightly colored fabrics. But as the celebrations died down, Sadiq's face grew dark. Sadiq had hoped for a son, someone who would carry on his name and help him in the fields. He believed that only a boy could bring honor and strength to his family. But as time went on, Amina gave birth to more daughters: Hawa, Fatima, Aisha, and Maryam. With each new daughter, Sadiq's heart grew colder. He began to resent Amina, blaming her for what he saw as a curse. The villagers, too, started to whisper behind her back, saying she was only capable of bearing girls. Sadiq became cruel to Amina. He would shout at her, refusing to eat the food she prepared, and sometimes he would stay away from home for days. The love they once shared had vanished, replaced by anger and bitterness. Despite his harshness, Amina remained gentle and loving. She cared for her daughters with all the affection she could muster, teaching them kindness, patience, and the importance of education. The villagers also began to treat Amina differently. They would mock her when she walked through the marketplace, calling her the mother of girls as if it were an insult. Amina would hold her head high, but inside, her heart ached. She knew her daughters were precious, but the world seemed to think otherwise. One day, when Maryam was just a baby, Sadiq did the unthinkable. He decided to take a second wife, convinced that a new woman would finally give him the son he so desperately wanted. Amina's heart shattered, but she knew she had no power to stop him. Sadiq married a young woman named Hadiza, and soon she, too, gave birth to a child, a girl. Sadiq's anger grew even more, and he began to neglect his family altogether. Despite the hardships, Amina's daughters grew up strong and wise. Zainab, the eldest, was particularly intelligent and curious. She loved to read and would spend hours under the shade of a baobab tree with her nose in a book. She dreamed of becoming a teacher, someone who could share knowledge and wisdom with others. Hawa had a talent for weaving, her fingers moving quickly and skillfully to create beautiful patterns on the loom. Fatima had a gift for healing, knowing just which herbs to mix for treating ailments. Aisha had a voice like an angel, her songs bringing peace to those who heard them. And little Maryam, though still young, had a fierce determination that everyone could see. As the years passed, the daughters grew into remarkable women. Zainab, through sheer determination and hard work, won a scholarship to study at the university in the city. She left Idara with tears in her eyes, promising her mother that she would return to help her and her sisters. Hawa began selling her woven fabrics in the marketplace, earning enough to support the family. Fatima started a small clinic in the village, using her knowledge of herbs to treat the sick. Aisha's songs became famous throughout the region, and people would come from far and wide to hear her sing. One by one, the daughters of Amina began to rise above the hardships they had faced. They became known throughout Kwara State for their talents and contributions to society. Zainab returned to the village as a teacher, opening a school for girls and boys, teaching them that knowledge was the greatest power of all. Hawa's fabrics were sought after by traders from faraway lands. Fatima's clinic became a place of healing and hope. Aisha's voice was celebrated in the courts of kings. And even little Maryam, though still young, was already showing signs of becoming a fierce advocate for women's rights. The villagers who once mocked Amina now came to her for advice, seeking her wisdom and guidance. They began to see that it was not the gender of the child that mattered, but the love, education, and values they were raised with. Amina's daughters had proven to the world that girls were just as capable, just as strong, and just as valuable as boys. Sadiq, seeing the success and influence of his daughters, began to feel deep shame for the way he had treated Amina. He realized too late that he had been blinded by foolish pride. He tried to mend his relationship with his daughters, but they had seen too much of his cruelty. They respected him as their father but did not seek his approval, for they had grown strong in the knowledge that their worth did not depend on anyone else's validation. Amina, though scarred by years of pain and neglect, found solace in the love of her daughters. She had raised them to be independent, strong, and wise, and now she saw the fruits of her labor. The once quiet, timid woman became a pillar of strength in the village, her voice carrying weight in matters both big and small. And so, the story of Amina and her daughters spread far and wide, a tale of resilience, strength, and the power of love. In the end, the village of Adara came to understand that both boys and girls were blessings, each with their own unique strengths and gifts. The legacy of Amina's daughters lived on, a testament to the truth that a child's worth is not measured by their gender, but by the love and values with which they are raised. But even as peace settled over the village, there were whispers of new challenges on the horizon. A storm was brewing, one that would test the strength and unity of Amina's family like never before. One day, as the sun dipped low over the fields of Adara, casting long shadows across the village, Zainab gathered her sisters together under the old baobab tree. They often met there to discuss their dreams, challenges, and the future. But today, Zainab's face was troubled, and the usual warmth in her eyes was replaced by worry. "I've heard troubling news from the city," she began, her voice low but steady. The other sisters leaned in closer, sensing the seriousness of her tone. "There's a powerful man, Chief Uche, who has been spreading lies about our family. He says that we have used dark magic to achieve our success, that no women could rise as we have without some sort of evil intervention." Hawa's hands tightened around the fabric she was working on, and Aisha's normally serene face twisted in concern. "But that's not true," Aisha said, her voice filled with confusion. "We've worked hard for everything we've achieved." "I know," Zainab replied, her gaze moving from sister to sister. "But in the minds of those who do not understand, success by women is sometimes seen as unnatural, especially in a place like this where old traditions still hold so much power." Fatima spoke up, her tone filled with anger. "He's trying to discredit us because he fears the changes we represent. He doesn't want girls and women to believe that they can be strong, successful, and independent. He wants to keep the old ways alive, where women are seen but not heard." Zainab nodded. "Exactly. And he's powerful. He has influence over many of the village elders and even some of the younger men who admire him. If we don't do something, he could turn the entire village against us." A heavy silence fell over the group as they considered the weight of Zainab's words. They had faced many challenges before, but this was different. Chief Uche was a man of means, with resources and followers who would do his bidding without question. It wasn't just their reputation at stake, it was everything they had built, the very foundation of their lives. "What can we do?" Mariam asked, her voice small but determined. "We can't let him destroy everything. We need to act, and we need to be smart about it," Zainab said, her mind already racing with possibilities. "First, we need to gather information. We need to know who his allies are and what his next moves might be. But more than that, we need to show the village that our success is built on hard work, education, and unity. We need to be visible, to remind them of all the good we've done." Fatima stood up, her eyes fierce. "I'll go to the market tomorrow. People talk there. I'll listen, see what I can find out." Hawa nodded. "I'll speak with some of the women who buy my fabrics. They've always been supportive. Maybe they can help spread the truth." "I'll visit the elders," Aisha offered. "My songs have always brought them peace. Perhaps I can convince them that we mean no harm." Mariam, though the youngest, refused to be left out. "And I'll talk to the other children. Sometimes they hear things the adults don't. And maybe they can help spread our message in ways the adults won't expect." Zainab felt a swell of pride as she looked at her sisters. They were strong, united, and determined to protect what they had built. "We'll need to be careful," she warned. "Chief Uche won't play fair. He'll use whatever means he can to undermine us. But as long as we stick together, we can overcome this." The next few days were tense as the sisters put their plan into action. Fatima spent hours in the market, subtly gathering information from the vendors and customers. Hawa talked to her clients, weaving the story of their family's hard work into every conversation. Aisha sang in the village square, her voice carrying a message of peace and unity that resonated with all who heard it. And Mariam, with her bright eyes and quick wit, spread the truth among the children, turning them into little messengers who carried the sisters' story far and wide. But Chief Uche was not idle. He saw the influence the sisters had and knew he had to act quickly. He began spreading more rumors, telling anyone who would listen that the sisters were dangerous, that they were trying to overthrow the village traditions. He warned the men that if they did not act, their wives and daughters would follow in the sisters' footsteps, leaving their homes and abandoning their duties. The tension in the village grew thick, like a storm cloud ready to burst. The sisters could feel the eyes of the villagers on them wherever they went. Some people, particularly the older men, began to look at them with suspicion, while others, especially the women and children, rallied around them, offering support in small but meaningful ways. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a deep shade of orange, a group of men, led by Chief Uche, came to Amina's house. They banged on the door, demanding to speak with Sadiq. Amina, with her heart pounding in her chest, opened the door and faced them. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "We want Sadiq," Chief Uche sneered. "We want to know why he allows his daughters to disgrace our village with their unnatural behavior." Sadiq, who had been sitting silently in the corner, rose to his feet. For a moment, he looked at the men, then at Amina, and finally at his daughters who had gathered behind their mother. His face was a mask of uncertainty, torn between the old ways he had clung to for so long and the undeniable truth of his daughter's worth. "Go home," Sadiq finally said, his voice low but firm. "My daughters are not a disgrace. They are a blessing." Chief Uche's face twisted in anger, but before he could respond, Zainab stepped forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "We are not afraid of you," she said, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "We have done nothing wrong. We have worked hard, and we have succeeded because we believe in ourselves and in the power of knowledge and unity. You can try to turn the village against us, but you will not succeed. The truth will always prevail." The men stood there, stunned into silence by Zainab's courage. Chief Uche's sneer faltered, and for a moment, he seemed unsure of himself. But then, with a huff, he turned on his heel and stormed away, his followers trailing behind him like shadows. The sisters stood in the doorway, watching them go, the tension slowly easing from their shoulders. Amina stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Zainab's shoulder. "You were brave," she said softly. "But this is not over. We must remain vigilant." And so they did. The days that followed were filled with hard work, careful planning, and constant vigilance. The sisters continued to reach out to the villagers, slowly but surely turning the tide of public opinion in their favor. Chief Uche, seeing that his efforts to discredit them were failing, grew more desperate and began to plot in secret, determined to destroy the sisters once and for all. But the sisters were ready. They had faced challenges before, and they knew that as long as they stood together, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. Little did they know that the greatest test of their strength and unity was yet to come.